Live from the top of the beautiful towers at Merle Hay Mall, all 6 stories of it, it's Faith Works Live with host Michael Damastis.
I'm so glad that you're joining us today. I am the host, Michael Damastis, and this is Faith Works Live, and it's Thursday. Usually on Thursdays, we are joined by Michael Mudloff, who is here in the studio with us this day as well. We got another guest who's not usually with us on Thursdays, and that's Chris Roloff, and he is the station manager here at KTIA, and our producer is with us in studio as well, Chris Brass. And so I have to tell you, I wanted to come before we had some show prep. We were ready to talk about a topic, and I kind of have called an audible. And usually Michael and I have a we do some show prep. We do stuff to get ready for the day, and we were going to talk about a topic that I've decided to kind of postpone for a little while, and we're going to just deal with something that's happening in my world right now, and that is this. On May 19th, so what is it today? It's the 22nd of June. On May 19th, I put up a sign on our church marquee, and I did it because I had just got the news, either that day or the day before, that 2 more Iowa Planned Parenthood clinics had closed. And I had a skip in my step, and I just felt a little more lighthearted, and I was happy and joyful because of that wonderful, wonderful news. And I mean this. I put this up, and this isn't just me saying something. I mean this. I do this, and this is what the message says, even at this moment. Praying that all Iowa Planned Parenthood clinics will close. And that's what I put on our church marquee. So like I said, it's been up there for a while. Well, the problem is that it kind of blew up on Facebook because of the lightning speed of technology yesterday. And somebody actually took a picture of the church marquee and put it up on a Facebook group page called The People of Des Moines. And what preceded was just barrage of comments, and they're all very, very nice, reasoned people, very rational, saying wonderful things typically about me and the church, but maybe expressing a little bit of discomfort and disagreement with the sign. Very, very well spoken individuals. If you read through the almost 700 comments right now, I think that's what you would see. Everything I just said was sarcasm, because it is a fest of sewage on that page, and I don't mind an unbeliever, a non-Christian, going goofy about disagreeing with me and even being angry and saying how strongly they disagree. But what I have a problem with is when that becomes an occasion for them to mock my Lord. There is outright horrific pictures put up there. I can't describe some of them to you at all, but I will describe one. It's just a picture in the midst of, listen, we're talking about Planned Parenthood and a pastor praying that they would close, and he put that on the sign. And so I'm going to use this as an occasion to put up a picture of Jesus with his hand out, sitting in a nail salon place with an Oriental woman, saying, and it says under the picture, Jesus getting his nail done, and she's painting the nail sticking out of Jesus's hand.
Wow.
That's humor. That's funny, right? To the unbelieving world. And it kind of makes me sick, that kind of stuff. I can take, bring it on from the unbelieving world. I mean, listen, there's nothing new they can say to me that hasn't already been said. I remember telling the story about when we had on our church marquee back in February of 2012, I I got just tons of emails, thousands of emails sent to me. Some of them were, I would click on the email and it would be gay pornography, nothing else, just images, just all they were doing was trying to mess with me and they, that kind of bothered me. Who wants to see that? It was gross. So that's all been the occasion of, over 30 days of having this church sign out there. And just within the past 2 days, this has happened. This Facebook page, The People of Des Moines, it has blown up into this thing. And I'm not kidding you. There's hundreds upon hundreds of comments on this thread. And so it has impacted me today. It kind of messed with me. I don't care about a non-Christian being angry. The scriptures are very clear. They're darkened in their understanding. They don't get it. They don't understand how a Christian minister would want to genuinely have a place of death like that be closed. They just don't understand that at all. And that part doesn't bother me. However, there are people that were on that page that had connections to my church in the past. That bothered me when they started jumping in, talking about the church or talking about myself. That's something that I've struggled with throughout the day. And one of the things is I'm just kind of blathering on here. One of the things that does bother me, because I get accused of, he's grandstanding. He's just wanting to bring attention to himself. He's wanting to, he's just doing that sign stuff so, he'll get some publicity. Because, that's, if you're going to get publicity, why not get hate publicity? Because that's really fun, that's a good thing. I had at least a dozen voicemails on my answering machine today that I listened to maybe one or two words and then had to delete it because it, there's, Pastor, you're, and then I'm done. Because what followed was not good. I'm not doing any of this because I want that. I don't want that. I'm doing this because nobody says stuff anymore. Nobody speaks out anymore. Babies are still being slaughtered, and nobody cares. And I was talking with Roloff before we began the show, and I hearken this to the fact that we had good Christian people in Germany that would get into their churches on Sundays and worship and hear the whistles of the train that were taking Jews to the concentration camps. And maybe the pastor might tell the organist to play a little louder as we sing "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God," so they didn't have to hear that train whistle. I don't want to be that guy. This issue, the issue of life, is so important to me. And I feel like somebody's got to stand up. Somebody's got to be waving a flag. Somebody's got to get a bullhorn. Somebody's got to be out there telling the world, even if they are unbelieving, even if they don't understand, this has to stop. This is wrong. Join me in praying for an end to these death houses. What say you, brother?
Well, I appreciate you bringing this up. And, of course, I've known you've had this sign for a month or so, and I love the sign. I think it's great. We talked at the time that the word came out that those Planned Parenthood clinics had closed. I mean, that was a time for rejoicing. We know that not only are they death houses, but that the message that they try to convey to the population around our country about what goes on there is a distorted message.
Yeah.
So they've lied and they've deceived to this country about what exactly happens there, under the guise of women's health care. So I'm with you. And I think that's what you said about the sign is exactly what it's for. It's to, talk about things and And a lot of churches have signs. Ours doesn't. And you can go online and you can Google and find all kinds of sites just filled with messages that are found on church signs. So I think you utilize yours well. And your church is on a main thoroughfare. You are making statements that people need to hear so that they can contemplate the larger things about life that are more important than whether they should go to Starbucks or Caribou right now, because they have all those options. So I think it's great. I also think, though, that having that sign and utilizing it the way you do does invite this kind of feedback. And in my mind, that is a mark that you're speaking truth.
I don't care about negative feedback and what's happening like today. Okay, there's a Facebook page and there's hundreds of people, that have never walked inside of our church building, that have never heard me speak or met me in person, that seem to be experts on who we are as a church and who I am as a person. But other than that annoying part, I don't care about the unbeliever who's angry when he hears a message of truth. Yeah. I don't care about that. Not that I do. I love the unbeliever. I want them, to hear the truth, but I want them to hear it in love. And having a message on a church sign that says, praying all Iowa Planned Parenthoods will close, I'm trying. I can't think of anything more loving to pray than that.
But it is a provocative statement. And I think that's worthwhile. I like that it's a provocative statement.
Chris.
Michael, we talked about this a little bit before the broadcast. I think it's quite fascinating to me that most non-believers come to pastors, they call radio programs like this, and they say, I can't believe in God because of he allows so much suffering in the world. And I find that hilarious because Planned Parenthood is one of the great purveyors of suffering in the world today. And as Christians, we ought to be praying that Planned Parenthood's closed so that suffering would stop in the world. If you want to end suffering in the world, help us close Planned Parenthoods. Pray that they would go away. Pray that suffering would end. And yet the hypocrites who love violence and love death don't really want to end suffering. They just want to keep it going, don't they?
Yes, they do. I am Michael Damastis. I am a hateful, bigoted, judgmental, horrible pastor.
From Ames to Bondurant to Carlisle and everywhere in between, you're listening to the Truth Network. So come on in, join the conversation by texting or calling 515-727-KTIA.
So we are taking sign suggestions today on FaithWorks Live. What should be our sign that will not cause any problems, keep people comfortable and happy, because that's the goal of all church signs. Chris Brass, you have a suggestion.
Please do not read this sign.
Please do not read this sign.
Well, that's not offensive. That's for sure.
Right.
Don't tell me what to do. Yeah. That's what I was. How dare you tell me what to do?
See,
I can be offended at anything. I'm really of the generation that knows how to be offended. It's like an art form.
Oh man. So here's the thing. If you did not hear in the last segment, I had put up on May 19th, because I went and checked the record, and I had changed our church sign to say, praying all Iowa Planned Parenthoods will close. That's what's currently on our church message. It's been up since May 19th. It's June 22nd. The lightning speed of Facebook caught up with that, and just yesterday, and somebody had taken a picture of the church sign and put it up on a Facebook page group that I wasn't even aware of until this morning. The page is called The People of Des Moines, and hundreds upon hundreds of comments throughout the day have occurred, and my wife gave me some great wisdom today. My wife was like, just get off there, don't read that. And I got to admit, it's very hard not to. You know, when you know people are talking about you, people are talking about your church. I mean, it's hard to avoid that, but that's what has taken place on that message board, Michael.
Well, now that you know what's there, I agree with your wife. There's no sense in keeping going back to it.
Oh, I agree.
You got the gist of it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not your audience. So
yeah.
So they're not the people that you are serving at this point. But I guarantee you that there are people who have found it on that Facebook page who really, in the quiet corners of their mind, are wondering, why are they praying for Planned Parenthood clinics to close? I don't get it.
Right.
And that could be just the thing that the Holy Spirit is going to use at some point in this person's future to direct them to Christ. And it may not be today, it may not be a year from today, it could be a decade down the road, but they're going to see that, or somebody's going to drive down Army Post Road a week from now and see the sign and go, oh, that's that thing. Mm-hmm. This doesn't look like a temple of Satan. These people look normal to me. You might end up with somebody coming to your church intending to cause trouble, who actually discovers that you're not the person that people on that Facebook page are making you out to be.
Correct. Chris Roloff.
Damascus, I have to ask the question, Michael Mudloff asked, why would you be praying? Now, he was asking on the behalf of someone who maybe wouldn't understand, but why don't you tell us, why would you be praying for Planned Parenthoods in the state of Iowa to close?
Planned Parenthood is a hateful, hurtful, deceitful organization. I believe they are hateful in that, the obvious, they kill little girls. They kill little boys. They hurt women who have made the choice to have an abortion, who carry the wound of that, the scar of that. And I'm not talking physically, I'm talking emotionally and spiritually. There isn't a woman alive who has made that choice that would relish in that. And when they have made that choice, I want to say, especially anybody that's listening, that we have spent a lot of time on this show talking about women who have made the choice to have an abortion, that God is full of grace and love. Mm-hmm. And his grace and mercy are there and available to you. And even though churches may at times not be receptive to wanting to dole out that grace and mercy, you need to know this. At the Fort, we are. And we love you, and we accept you. We know that was a hard thing that you went through, and we don't want you to feel less of a Christian because that experience is in your past. We want to help heal that burden.
And a gracious, godly, Bible-preaching church will leverage their resources to encourage you if you've gone through a difficult trial.
And where is Planned Parenthood for that woman? They want her money, and they want that child gone. And that's it. We're here to help you eradicate. That's why we exist, to do that for you. We want that out of you. We want to get that done. And once that choice is made, that woman rarely is going to be able to receive any kind of help from Planned. Why would they want to counsel a woman who's had an abortion when they hold it up in such noble esteem as something that they should do? They're not going to help that woman who is hurting and walking in pain and walking in just brokenness from that experience. And so I just want to say that that's one thing. They are hateful towards women. Second, they are hurtful, obviously, because of the nature of who they are, the things that they do. Like I said, they're not providing any kind of help or counsel to a woman that's been through an abortion. They kill children, but they're also deceitful. They're deceitful in their practices. They're deceitful in the nature of they say things like, we want to offer our services on a sliding scale, which means that a woman literally can walk into a Planned Parenthood clinic and pay $70 for a pregnancy test, which she can buy for $1 at Dollar Tree. That's deceitful. That's wrong. the business practice of saying that, well, abortions really only make up 3% of what we do. That's what Planned Parenthood would say. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like, your hamburger costs, $3.95, but really, we're charging you for the bun on the bottom, the bun on the top. We're charging you for each individual sesame seed. We're charging you for the hamburger patty. We're charging you for the cheese, the lettuce, the tomato, each condiment.
The marketing, the air conditioning, the electricity.
Exactly.
All of that makes up the other 97% of what Planned Parenthood does.
Even when a Planned Parenthood person is counseling an individual and they give them a pamphlet, that's something that they count towards that. And so the way that they deal with their numbers is deceitful. It's wrong. So they are a hateful, they are a hurtful, they are a deceitful organization that I pray to God. I don't just pray this, guys. I plead with Jesus to close the doors of every single one of these, not just in Iowa, but all over our nation. We did receive a text, Chris.
What's that number? They texted us at 515-727-KTIA. You can send us a text, 515-727-5842.
And the text says, I'm as anti-abortion as the next person. I support your sign, but this life movement is going into the realm of fanaticism. I trust in the sovereign God. The aborted infants that God knows would accept him will be raised to everlasting life. The aborted infants that would not be accepted, not of accepting God, won't be raised out of the dust. The gospel many times is being lost to the fanaticism. Abortion is made out to be some holy grail, and I cheer when Planned Parenthood closes doors too.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
We can talk about it next. I'd love to respond. Can I respond?
Yes, you can respond to that.
Fun.
When we come back from our break, praying that all Iowa Planned Parenthoods close daily at the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ and on 99.3 FM The Truth.
Amen.
It's Mikey. He's better than TV. We're listening to Mikey, and best of all, it's free.
If you're like me, you're tired of the way that people bicker and argue about politics. What's worse, you're discouraged by leaders who abandon their principles to play political games. Surely there's got to be a better way to lead our country. There is. I want to tell you about an encouraging and inspiring event that's challenging all of us to rethink what it means to stand for principle over politics. The Family Leadership Summit in Des Moines, Iowa on July 15th is an annual get-together of thousands of Americans with a heart for God and a heart for America. People who go to this summit consistently come back saying how encouraged they are to know that they're not alone, that so many are yearning and working toward an honest-to-goodness revival in our nation. It's the church doing what the church is supposed to be doing, not afraid of government, but not playing politics either. It's the church standing up to speak biblical truth to power, principle over politics. This summit speakers this year come from the spheres of government, entertainment, and the church, each discussing how to navigate leadership while staying true to your values. The speaker list includes George Barna, Counselor to the President Kellyanne Conway, the Benham Brothers, Pastor Jim Garlow, U.S. Senators Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, and more. So won't you join me for a day of faith-affirming, culture-changing inspiration? For more information and to get your tickets, go to thefamilyleadershipsummit.com. That's thefamilyleadershipsummit.com. Now, I'm in studio today talking with Michael Mudloff, talking with Chris Roloff. We're being joined as well by our producer, Chris Brass, about the current church sign at Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, a cult, I have learned, that hates everything and everybody. Their pastor is a horrible, horrible man that is fueled by Satan himself to only spew venom and hate every opportunity that he gets. That's at least what Facebook has taught me. Chris Brass.
I wonder if this is how Elijah felt when he was saying, keep going, maybe your God is still sleeping.
I don't know. So we did receive a text in the last segment, and that texter said some things that left me dazed and confused. And Chris Roloff, you wanted to respond.
Can we read, Chris? Would you be interested in reading it again?
Yeah, actually, we just received another text. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's from a different person. Yes, let me read the text again.
Okay.
I'm as anti-abortion as the next person. I support your sign, but this life movement is moving into the realm of fanaticism. I trust in a sovereign God. The aborted infants that God knows would accept him will be raised to everlasting life. The aborted infants that would not have accepted God won't be raised out of the dust. The gospel many times is being lost in the fanaticism. Abortion is made out to be some holy grail, and I cheer when Planned Parenthood closes its doors too.
I will just say really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Jen Green's response is really kind of where I'm at. Oh boy.
Yeah. That text is kind of an oh boyer. It's kind of a strange one here, but I would like to. Well, we laughed a lot in the break, so I think it's funny that we think the pro-life movement is at a fanatical level right now. It's not at a fanatical level right now. In fact, it's at a pretty mellow level, to be honest with you, because in many ways the pro-life movement is winning the war. And Planned Parenthood is scrambling. Planned Parenthood is frantically trying to figure out how they're going to stay afloat because the curtain has been pulled back. Their lies have been exposed. They know that the masses are learning very quickly that Planned Parenthood is full of that stuff we can't talk about on the radio. What's that? What's the word that Paul used?
Scubalon.
Yeah. The folks at Planned Parenthood are filled with scubalon. And so we're learning that, and the world is learning that. So it's not a big fanatical movement at all right now. But the thing that really gets me,
all these people are grabbing their Thayers or their Vines, just to look up the word real quick in the Greek.
Yeah, right. I would be impressed if you know what Michael is talking about. We'd love to hear from you. But
I think that the texter is hoping that the pro-life movement will take the same game plan as the Atlanta Falcons did at the halftime of the Super Bowl when they were up by 3 or 4 touchdowns. It's time to back off.
How did that turn out for them?
You're on the cusp of victory. So let's just back off and not get too fanatical. Let's not start celebrating before the game is over.
Let's also just kind of address really quick the absolutely atrocious theology of saying that God just willy-nilly picks people before they're born who's going to be saved and who's going to not be saved. Let's just go ahead and deal with that really quick.
But that's not what the text said. The text said God would look into the future to see which unborn persons. Right. So it was not even
but there is
the
no
Reformed
future.
doctrine of election.
So God is going to look into the future that's not because the baby's already dead. So he's going to look into the non-existent future for that child. This is... I love the text. But
it leaves me at the I can't even stage.
I can't even right now.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we don't need to go into it. But yeah, that's some terrible theology. You know what I mean? So
Yes, I do.
We just want to acknowledge that that's terrible theology.
Yeah, even the Reformed guys are cringing at the allusion to election present in that text.
I am still kind of getting back onto where I was at earlier. I am wondering why there are many who would look at, putting up a message that says, I really pray that all Iowa Planned Parenthoods will close. That look at a message like that from a minister of the gospel, and they are confused by it or they're angered by it, and don't think that is somehow consistent with the worldview in which I live.
Well, as you know, Michael, at Westkirk, we're preaching through Revelation right now. We had a good chuckle about that a few weeks ago. And we're up to chapter 17, and in chapter 17, we are hearing in chapter 18 the destruction of Babylon. Babylon in Revelation stands for, well, first, Babylon is presented to us as a city, and we all know where we want to go to get an abortion. We go to the city because that's where Planned Parenthood is, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the place you go to get involved with things that are ungodly and keep you from the God who loves you. Okay, that's one thing. But then in those chapters, this Babylon is personified to be a prostitute. And the message there in chapters 17 and 18, not only for the believer but for the unbeliever, is who are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the beast and the whore, or are you going to follow Christ and the bride? That's your option. And so for those who have not trusted in Christ, who are experiencing life as if their primary goal is to gain as much wealth and as much power and as much pleasure and as much good stuff as possible, because that's what life is all about, you're being deceived by the whore Babylon. And for the believer who thinks that the essence of the gospel is to try to follow after as much of that stuff as possible while still holding on to your free fire extinguisher pass, Jesus, so that when you die, having still lived your life like the pagans around you, you'll get to heaven anyway. You are being deceived.
Right.
You are following the beast and the whore, not Christ and the bride.
We have conformed the church. We have molded it into the image of Babylon.
Yeah.
We have made the church.
Babylon has an
our
inroads
likeness.
into the church. Absolutely.
It is
absolutely.
It is rarely reflective anymore of Christ and his crucified, resurrected, victorious self. And so I think, and this is really where the rubber meets the road for me, is I get tired of being a guy. I don't want criticism. I don't want angry people. I don't want hateful emails. I don't want all of that. But I get tired of being a minister that will put stuff out there publicly, and I don't see other guys doing it.
Sure.
And I just wonder why don't we have more men willing to stand up and publicly proclaim the truth that we know to be true.
And even, I don't know if this is better or worse, but half the churches in America have abandoned the truth of the gospel and the inerrancy of Scripture altogether.
That's right.
And these are some of the people who are on the bandwagon of the folks on that Facebook page, decrying the message of your sign and making you out to be the demon that they think you are.
Well, I have learned many things about myself and my church today from Facebook. I'm still learning, but I want to know and hear from you. When we come back, we do have a caller online, and we'll get to you in just a moment, caller. Our number is 515-727-KTIA.
The traffic on your way home may be stop and go, but the conversation here at 99.3 never slows down. If you want to be a part of it, you can call or text 515-727-KTIA.
You know, with the constant changing of seasons, it is essential to maintain a comfortable temperature in your home. Equipped with a good working HVAC system, you can easily create a refreshing atmosphere in the summer and a very cozy one in the winter. Turn to Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing for reliable heating and cooling services. As the HVAC contractor of choice in Adel, Iowa for over 100 years, you can rest assured that you will be provided with premier quality products and services. People choose Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing because of their competitive rates and because they are employee-owned and operated. They provide exceptional HVAC services and are fully insured and licensed. With over a century of experience, whether you need some rusty pipes fixed or heating or cooling services performed for your property, you can count on Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Their professional plumbers and HVAC specialists have the knowledge and the equipment necessary to handle any and all of your needs. So give them a call today at 515-371-4036. That's 515-371-4036. I'm Mike Damastis, and I'm the host of FaithWorks Live, and today we have been discussing the church sign that I have out in front of Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, which meets at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Our website is godsfort.org, and if you have unpleasant things to say, keep them to yourself. Otherwise, you can give us a call at 515-285-1254 at our church. I had to delete a ton of voicemail messages today that were not nice. And that is regarding our church sign that currently reads, since May 19th, praying all Iowa Planned Parenthood clinics close. And we've just been discussing how hateful and judgmental and bigoted that really is, that I would do such an awful thing. Isn't that right, Chris Roloff?
Oh, it is just such a hateful and awful, bigoted thing. I'm kidding. Of course, sarcasm. I think it's a wonderful thing, actually, to be praying that all Planned Parenthoods in the state of Iowa would close. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I just can't say it enough. You know, Planned Parenthood is a purveyor of a lot of suffering, pain, lies, deceitfulness, wickedness, debauchery right here in the state of Iowa. They're an evil organization. Now, there are many people who work for Planned Parenthood that maybe don't know that. I think of Abby Johnson, who was once a high-level executive with Planned Parenthood, and she felt like she was doing really good work for a time. And, you know, in fact, earlier this spring, Celebration that was downtown, the celebration of all the different Asian groups here in the state of Iowa come together. It was a great fun time, and I was down there with my family, and in the little medical tent area, there was a Planned Parenthood booth, and I thought, well, gosh, I'm sure the ladies volunteering at the Planned Parenthood tent aren't vile, hateful, wicked people who are hell-bent on destruction. I don't think they are. They must be really lovely ladies that think they're doing the best they possibly can. And that's the thing that's upsetting to me about Planned Parenthood, is because the deception level is so high. The deception level is so high that even the people that work for them are deceived internally.
Well, we had on this very show quite some time ago, Sue Thayer, who was the manager of a Planned Parenthood clinic in Storm Lake, Iowa. And she just shared she ultimately had to leave. She was, quote unquote, converted to the pro-life movement because, first off, she listened to Christian radio. Isn't that amazing? Christian talk radio.
That's right.
That impacted her so much, and the things that she was hearing. Pretty soon, the truth became so overpowering in her life, she left her own Planned Parenthood clinic that she managed. And if you heard that whole story, what a powerful story. She ended up going and protesting in front of the very clinic that she was a manager of and praying out in front of that Planned Parenthood clinic, which, by the way, when they went through that 40 days of life experience where she prayed 40 straight days with groups of churches and other Christians, that Planned Parenthood clinic ended up closing its doors 2 months later. Powerful thing.
I think it is, and Pastor Mudloff, you can speak to this, but I think prayer is this great work and privilege that God has given to us. You know, atheists often say, why doesn't God end the suffering in the world? And to some degree, we don't often pray about God. We don't genuinely ask God to end suffering in the world as often as we ought. And here's a perfect opportunity for us to be praying that suffering in the world would end. And I think the Lord would want us to act in that way.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I think the part that we're missing here is that the people who are attacking Mike and his church for this sign are blinded to that deception. They're blinded to their own hypocrisy. They don't understand why people would be against Planned Parenthood because they've bought the argument that Planned Parenthood is a good organization that helps people. You know, many of these people actually think they provide health services for women at Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
That has been completely debunked. And anybody who wanted to take the time to actually research it could discover this quite easily. But that is the perception because for many, many years, politicians, the media, educators have all bought the notion that Planned Parenthood is a good thing and have contributed to this image that's a false image.
And that can't be overstated. They are masters at branding and image management. And so I want to go to a caller that we have on the line. Caller, are you there?
I'm here.
Well, I think this is Tim, right? Hello? Tim, do we got you?
Fantastic. We also had a text, I think. Text came in at 515-727-5842. It's 515-727-5842.
Our text says, excuse me just a minute.
So
After your pastor guest from yesterday throwing down a litmus test for the GOP voters, those who vote for Trump can't be Christian. And you don't think that fanaticism, some of us don't take the fanatic all or nothing attitude on abortion. We are willing to be progressive on the issue. Destroy it one step at a time. Okay, so let's just look at the record. And the cool thing is that the actual video of the show was out there. And I would challenge you, who just texted, to actually look and see what we said. Nobody at any time even insinuated the idea that you cannot be a Christian and vote for Donald Trump. Nobody said that or suggested that at any point in the show. What we did find interesting was that if you're a Christian and you criticize Donald Trump, you kind of bring down the rain on yourself right there.
That's what we did discover. And yeah, that's what was discovered yesterday, is that you cannot say anything against Donald Trump. And I found it quite interesting. He was in town. I was always curious if he was listening. He's been known to listen to 99.3. Hi, President Trump, sir.
Yeah. So we do have our caller back. Tim, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Gosh, there's so many things to say. I mean, you guys have said it well, but that texter that was talking about being too fanatical, I guess I'd be curious as what he thinks or she thinks we should be fanatical about exactly. If we saw a half a kindergarten class get mowed down by a gun or by whatever every single day, wouldn't you expect to be fanatical? Wouldn't you do everything you possibly could to stop that?
Absolutely.
That's kind of the first thought that comes to mind. And
Tim, just a real quick question. Do you know how many Iowa unborn children are slaughtered by abortion every day?
13.
Every day.
Kindergarten class every 2 days.
That's a sobering thought that I really don't want people to pass over too quickly. Every single day in Iowa, 13 of our little babies are killed.
Tim, you have these statistics off the top of your head. Why don't you tell us how people can get in contact with you if they want to not be a fanatic, but actually do something productive, and rather than doing nothing to help advance this issue?
Sure. Easiest way probably for people that are driving is personhoodiowa@outlook.com. personhoodiowa@outlook.com.
That's great. And I appreciate you calling in, Tim, and talking. And also, just as a personal note, I appreciate your friendship and your encouragement and support as well, because sometimes it's needed when you're in the midst of stuff. So I appreciate
it. It can get
ugly,
brother. No question. I appreciate you standing up, Mike, and don't leave the studio. I'll be there in a few minutes.
Okay. All right.
If anyone wants to meet Tim, you can be here at the studio.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
I thought I kept all the doors locked. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, hey, I want to say thank you to all of you that are listening today. It's just been an interesting day. It's been an interesting experience.
Be encouraged, brother.
And I appreciate that. And I want you to know it's okay. It's okay to pray for an end to Planned Parenthood across America. It's all right as a Christian to do that. And it's even okay to talk about it publicly. Doesn't mean you're bad. I think it's the best thing that we can possibly do, the most loving thing that we could do. See you tomorrow.